Sometimes you don't need to grow roots. Sometimes you just need wings. And, I saw this quote somewhere. I don't know who's the author, but I liked it. And also it leads into the topic of today's episode. We'll be talking about freedom a lot. And we talk about freedom and what it takes to grow your business from freedom quite a bit on this podcast. I don't think we have talked a lot about what freedom is. So I think this episode is going to be mostly about that. And I'm so excited because I have someone with me to dive into this topic. And welcome to the new episode on From Grind to Grace, the show for the alternative entrepreneur, for the entrepreneur who is ready to flip the script and choose freedom first. When freedom is not a destination, when freedom is the path. Because when you stop grinding and start creating from freedom, success just tags along. So let's make that the default in this industry, the standard for you, for your children, and for humanity. The big question, though, is how? How do you do it? And that is what this podcast is about. And so now I want to welcome my beautiful, happy guest, Lazara. I want to welcome you on my show. I'm so excited, delighted to have you here. I know it's going to be fun and we're going to talk about inspiring things, I believe, with you. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Edita. When I first heard the name of your podcast, From Grind to Grace, from our mutual friend, Kirsten, I was like, I have to get on that show. This is you could describe my life as being different episodes of Grind to Grace. So yes, I'm very excited to be here, and let's see where the conversation goes.
Yes, and I guess we'll be talking about your life quite a bit for some reasons quite obvious to me, but also something probably I don't know yet about you. So I'll let you kind of introduce yourself. But first, I have a question for you. So
Great.
what do you and Arnold Schwarzenegger have in common?
Oh, brilliant. So you found my article then. I love it's brilliant. I love this because I was watching, we were in our home in Spain, in Marbella. We have multiple homes in the world, and one of them is in Marbella, in Spain, across from the beach. And we were watching Netflix, something we never ever do. My husband and I don't watch TV. I didn't own a TV for 6 years when I lived in Hong Kong. But this Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary piqued my interest, and I was watching it. And I thought for the first section of the documentary, I was like, dude, you are just the same as me. We have got very much in common because what I love about Arnold Schwarzenegger, I don't know if anyone's seen the documentary, but he
I
has this
have actually. It's really good.
it's really amazing. And you know what? When you think about his where he came from and where he got to, I guess we have a lot of similarities. And the biggest jump I would say is that I he was so determined, right? He just lived and breathed what he wanted to create in his life. People would look at him and say, as a young boy training to be like these Mr. Universe or whatever it's called, people would look at him and say, that's never going to happen. Or when he wanted to go to the US to become an actor, that's never going to happen. And this is the similarities. When I lived in a small town in the outskirts of Glasgow, quite a rough area, a council estate, like projects type place, quite a dangerous upbringing in some ways. I was in a gang, I was taking drugs, I had quite a lot of tragedy in my life. I wasn't particularly academic. I became a mother at 22 and completely turned my life around. And then I fast forward maybe, I don't know how many years, 20 years? No, fast forward maybe a, a couple of decades in my life, and I was in Hong Kong. My job was to teach senior leaders like CEOs and department heads, etc., to how to motivate their teams, how to lead with heart, how to go out and be great in the world. And this is in the high stakes finance world of Hong Kong, where the people around me, the people in my team, were actually people who had graduated from the top universities in the world. So I had gotten myself from absolutely knowing nothing, not really having anything, to really building a career as a single parent, traveling the world. And the similarities between me and Arnold was that you just know, and you put in the work.
Yes, yes, I love that documentary. I did see certain things that I didn't know about him. And obviously I knew about him mostly for bodybuilding.
Yeah.
But then it was so fascinating to see, his path and how he was
Mm-hmm.
growing and how he broke away from misery, from
Mm-hmm.
hard life. And I think, and basically he nailed everything he
Yeah.
set himself for, right? He, everywhere he went, he actually nailed it. It was not easy, but he did it. And I think the
Mm-hmm.
common thread, you know, in all that story is this huge passion. I mean, is hard work, yes,
Mm-hmm.
but I think when you have that passion, that hard work gets a powerful meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And when I
Yeah.
was in my early 20s, I used to go into the office on a Saturday to prepare because I would be leading a training course on the Monday that I didn't really know or didn't feel 100% confident about. So I would go in on the weekend and my friends were out partying and enjoying their lives. And I'd be like, I'm going to the office. And it wasn't because I was, it was hard work. It was exactly that. That's what came to my mind, Adita, when you said passion. I was just so passionate about what I did. And I just loved it. And I made things happen at the points where I was in that ease and flow, when I was in the grace, when I was in this is who I am and this is what I'm here to do. And I can use my voice and I can help people and help people develop. And that's how I became an expert in people development. I just became obsessed, passionate. I guess I use the word obsessed a lot, but it's just another way to say passionate.
Yeah, and from this point, I would like to I have two directions we could go
Mm-hmm.
in. So obviously, you being all over the place, all over the world, living
Mm-hmm.
here and there and whatever, and currently moving again,
Mm-hmm.
but also what you mentioned, and maybe that would be a good intro
Yeah.
about you, about why you resonated with the name of the podcast, From Grind to Grace,
Yeah.
and how that kind of links to your own journey, where you started. You mentioned
Mm-hmm.
drugs, you clearly broke away from that, became people leader, started coaching people, that's like such a big gap, right? So
Yeah.
what's in that gap and what were you looking for
Mm-hmm.
in your life, and how did you manage to manage that difficult situation and
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
doing other things?
Yeah. So I think a great place to start then. So my name's Lazara Canton, as you've introduced me, and I have my own podcast actually, and I have my own book, and it's all based on the same thing. And so you'll see this theory coming up quite a lot in my story, and it's you can turn this around. I have a real strong belief and sense that anything is possible, that we can achieve anything that we want, and I've proved to myself multiple times that I can do it. And I'm talking to you here from 32 degrees in Costa Rica, where I'm now living. I made the decision to sell my home. Not at the time we didn't decide to sell, but that's for this weekend. I decided to move my family from Scotland and Spain, where we had homes, to Costa Rica. The decision was made within a 10 minutes chat over breakfast one morning. It was just basically on a whim. I'd seen a reel that said 10 reasons to move to Costa Rica. And 6 of those 10 reasons were things that I had been currently at that point worrying about in my life: where to send my daughter to school, is this the right environment I want to live in, all of the things. And so here we are, short while later in
That's
Costa
freedom
Rica.
embodiment.
Exactly. Like
That's
I
like
just
how quickly you moved. I couldn't believe, like,
And it's funny because I was talking to different people about it. Like, I think we were having a conversation in the summer in Glasgow. It was a particularly crap summer, as they tend to be. And we were saying, oh, I was like, yeah, I'm going to move somewhere sunny. And then the next time we chatted a couple of weeks later, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to Costa Rica. They're like, what? That's the difference between you and us, is you talk about something, you do it. For
Mm.
me, I like Arnold, I just have to have the vision, and it has to be heart led. It has to be something that makes absolutely no bloody sense to anyone. Like the amount of times in my life, right? Even
Yeah.
just taking the recent example, the amount of times that people said to me, but you've never been to Costa Rica. But you what? How do you know what it's? And like these are questions that I'm like, that hasn't even factored into my decision making. Another point was my son and I moved to Istanbul for a secondment during the Gezi riots. The place was in a complete uproar. It was all over the TV. There was bombings. There was everything. And I was interviewing for a job there that I wanted to have. I really wanted to have it. The package was amazing, life-changing for my son and I. And people were like, when I arrived there, the senior team that I was working in, they were like, wow, you've moved here as a single parent, young blonde-haired single lady with a son during the Gezi riots to Istanbul with a predominantly male workforce. Like, that's very brave. And I didn't really think of it as being brave until they said that. I was like, oh, really? Is it? I think I just did it. I seen the vision, I went for it. And so my job now is I work with people on overcoming fear. And I always use the phrase faith over fear, because really that's what I do. Do I feel afraid when I do these things? Yes, absolutely. But my career, actually, in banking, it was in banking that I worked and helped develop leaders to develop their teams. And all my life has been in personal growth and development. And how do you teach people to really push their comfort zone? And I guess I really push mine to the point where lots of things are easy for me. Lots of things I feel I can do with grace.
Mm.
Because I've mirrored that, or I've built that stability within my systems. So
Do you,
yes,
do you think there is something behind that, something that helps you gather the courage
yeah,
or feel certain that things are gonna work out the way you are envisioning, or do, what is that?
yeah. I what I pinpoint this to, I have a strong sense of, I would say it could be called spirituality, connection to source. I feel a really strong inner power and essence. I hear and see and feel guided a lot of time. Of course, I never spoke about this with the senior leaders of the bank when I was coaching and training them, but lately I have become much more open about my spiritual journey and where I get my power from. When I was 8 years old, we lived in Costa del Sol in Spain. I grew up to a immigrant father who was Spanish, who hitchhiked to the UK, couldn't speak a word of English, had to learn, and he built his own business. Him and my mum got married. They built their own businesses. They had me and my sister. And there was a lot of, I would say, grit in my family. I come from a working class family. Of my mum and dad were really workers. They created a beautiful life for us. They gave us a lot of things, but they were workers. And sadly, my dad died on the beach in front of me when I was 8. It was obviously really traumatic, really, really tough thing to have gone through. And just shortly afterwards at his funeral, I had this, it was a really tough week, really. It was roasting hot day in August at his funeral. I was all hot and sweaty, and I couldn't see through my hair for the tears. I couldn't see or feel anything. It was just a complete mess. And we were sitting in the chapel at his funeral, and everyone was crying. And I just had this really strong sense of peace. And I looked up and I seen something above his coffin. It was like it looked a, like a light with flashes coming out of it. I couldn't really describe what it was. It looked a little bit like a bird, but not, you couldn't really pinpoint what it was. But it wasn't necessarily what I could see, it was what I could feel. When I seen that, I felt calm. I
Mm.
felt powerful. I felt centered. Of course, at that age, I had no clue what was going on, but I just felt a lot more at ease. And when I went home after the funeral, I said to my mum and my sister, we're moving back to Scotland. And they were like, what? Our life's here now. We've been living here for a couple of years. We've built a life here. I'm like, no, 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 we have to go back to Scotland, to my mum, said to my mum, to your family, and that's where we're going to be. And we went back, and it was really calming and lovely. And we had a
So
great
they
few
just
years. And
listen to you. So
they listened to me. Apparently, everyone listened to me when I was a child. I think I was quite strong-willed, but I guess in the
and
midst of
maybe
it
you
all,
had conviction.
yes, I
It's
was
a
really
funny,
strong.
it's a
Yeah.
funny and about conviction, and I have this
Mm,
yesterday. So we have two cats, right? And I was sitting on the couch. I don't know, I think it was during my lunch break or something, or it was Sunday, so it was whatever. I was sitting on the couch, and I don't always would let cats on my lap. Sometimes I just
hmm
want to move around and whatever, it's uncomfortable. And I saw this cat, and I thought from far, and he's actually on the radiator right now. So and I saw, he fell off the radiator, right? Meowed, and I was sitting there and I saw everything. And the next thought was like, he's gonna come to me now. During the time that I don't even, he doesn't normally. It's only usually in the evening, later in the evening when we watch something on TV, on Netflix or whatever.
hmm
And it was during the day. Okay, but and then next thing I know, he's coming like that. And I was like, I definitely didn't want him on my lap in that moment. I was relaxing, tired, but he was coming to me with such a conviction.
hmm
I and he just came and jumped. Normally, they kind of stand around you, they look at you, they kind of, engage before they know they're allowed, you know. No, he had so much conviction and all his posture and the way his pace and everything. I it didn't even cross my mind to say
Say
no to
no,
that.
yeah,
Even and I was looking at what was happening. Even cats
yes,
have that
yeah.
conviction, you know? So
It's
do you
like a
think
powerful energy. Yeah, it's like that. I don't know if you've read the book from Power versus Force, Force versus Power. I can never get it around the right way. I keep talking about it all the time. Um, but it's about that. It's when you've got an inner power, an inner knowing. It comes with strength. It comes with conviction when you know something to be true, and it's never normally factual. It's not like, oh, I researched this and this says this. It's normally like I can feel this with my whole body. Yeah, it's that really strong
yes,
power. When you follow that, I think things become much more easeful. Like fast forward again to the decision to move here. When we decided to move here, within a few days, everything was easy. Getting the school arranged for my daughter, all of the things that I wanted for my life here happened. It was like this. There was a little bit of difficulty finding a home that we liked, but it was mostly everything was easy, really easy. So, yeah, I think going back to those days when I was so young, I really, there's lots of pinpoints in my touch points in my life where I actually think to myself, where did that come from? Where did that strength come from? Where did that knowing? Sadly, after we moved back to Scotland within 5 years, my elder sister, who'd really taken over the care of me because my mum started to build the businesses again, My sister took care of me. She was 5 years older than me. Sadly, she was killed in a car accident within 5 years of my dad dying. So, and then when my mum went back to work, I was like 14 years old at this point. I was basically on my own. I felt like it was just me and the world. My mum was out working. That was her way of dealing with the tragedy. But my mum had said something to me at that point. She's like, look, we've got a choice here. We can go down a rabbit hole of sadness and grief and let what's happened to us completely take over our lives, or we can do something different. We can turn this around. And that's where that
Wow.
catchphrase came from. It wasn't until my sister died at 14. When by the time I was 18, I was taking drugs, I was getting kicked out of the house, I was a complete mess. And it was that day when my sister died, when my mum like looked at me and said, look, we've got choices. We can choose to do this differently. When I remembered that powerful phrase of my mum, although it helped at the time, it wasn't until 4 years later that I was like, okay, I have a choice here. I don't need to live my life like this anymore. And then I guess if you look at it from a trauma perspective, there is an element of the way I live my life and live my life to the maximum is a little bit about if I'm the last man standing. My mum also died as well before I had my daughter. So if I'm the last one standing out of my family, then I'm going to make this bloody amazing. I'm going to make sure that I have experienced everything that I want to experience.
Wow, so your mom, and it was such a hard time for her too, but
Mm.
she managed to hold that energy, for you.
Yeah, she was such a special human being, very positive, very bubbly, very gregarious. Yeah, I got a lot of my strength from her. And I mean, growing up, she would always tell me I can do anything, I could be anybody, I could. And this is for all the parents listening. I know we hear this all the time, um, but it really helped me, my mum's positivity and that belief that she had in me. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really, really cool and really, really nice. I don't think men, like all people, get that from their parents. I've met so
Mm-mm.
many people who don't,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, especially with mums. I hear a lot of women saying how their mums would say, maybe you should lose weight, or maybe you should do this, or maybe, but like I can't. My mum would used to say to me, if I put on weight, my mum would say to me, "Oh, you look beautiful. I like you like that." And, I can't remember my mum ever criticizing me, other than, of course, if I was doing something that was really harmful to my health, which I did
Yeah,
many
yeah.
times as a young person. But I can't remember that. And when I hear the stories, multiple stories of women whose mums would always be criticizing them, I was like, this is
And
unknown to me.
And also, I think this is where the whole society is heading as well. So now I remember when I was in school, my parents were hardly involved ever. They went to a couple of parent meetings,
Yeah.
every year, and that's it. Now there is this tracking. There is
Hmm.
this real-time tracking. We have an app that where you can see your kids' progress and performance in real time, and this and that, and what they buy in the canteen if you want.
God.
I never looked, but
I
I
mean, how
saw
must
it's
that
in the
feel?
system.
Yeah.
So they have their card, their ID card that
Hmm.
they used to buy in the canteen, and you can see what they buy. I'm like, oh my God, am I gonna hover now on, over my kid,
It's
and
like
me
another
with
thing.
questions,
Yeah.
why the hell did you buy this? I don't know, this biscuit or this whatever, I don't know.
Because you know that they're buying the biscuits when you're not there, right? Like if they've got money and there's biscuits and they want the biscuits, they're going to buy them. Like, why would you? Yeah,
Also, I
very
remember
tough.
when I was growing, so there was no tracking, nobody knew what we were used to get, and not like what happened. Nothing.
We were probably buying cigarettes, like singles. We used to buy like what you can buy cigarettes in ones and twos. with their school money or like some
in
other.
school's
Yeah.
canteen, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, wow. Wow. So how did you,
So
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just to kind of fully answer your question and to really I mean, you could say that my ability to choose freedom, my ability to really go for things was cultivated through my life circumstances. I think that's only part of it, though, Edita, and I've thought about this a lot. I think I always had a certain level of certainty, of strength, of conviction, the word that you used. I always had the reason I know that is because I have a 4-year-old daughter at the moment. I have a son who's 24 and I have a daughter who's 4. And she's really strong-willed. She's really determined. And I used to hear stories about how I was as a toddler, and I used to say, they're making that up. There's no way a toddler would be like that. And now I have one of my own. I am like, okay, maybe this is possible. So she has the same characteristics and the same strength and power, which I think my mum used to say I didn't need to teach you or push you into doing anything. If you wanted to do something, you would do it and you would get it done and you would achieve it. If you didn't want to do it, nobody could convince you to do it. It wasn't like that.
Mm.
Yeah. So nature versus nurture, I think there's probably both have come together.
You know, and I talk a lot about freedom and how you actually step into that freedom and grow your business from freedom is
Hmm.
where you combine strategy with freedom, like as in like you grow it from freedom, and this piece about conviction and doing what you love is so huge. It's actually key to
Yes.
feeling free. Then you combine with these powerful strategies, and that's how you can step into freedom pretty much like almost instantly, you know.
Yeah, and this is the part that I've not cracked yet, right? This is the part that I'm because I've got to the point in my career and in my life where I chose freedom. I've made lots of decisions when I worked for the bank to go and work and live in places that I liked, Hong Kong, Istanbul, Jersey, all these places. And people were like, you know that if you want to advance your career in the right way, you should go to London. That's where all the global roles are. That's where the HQ is. And I'm like, I don't want to live in London. Like maybe I will at one point, but it's not exciting me. So I did create and cultivate a lot of freedom within an organization, within a structure. Then, after having my daughter, when I retired, I had I cultivated this amazing life where I was writing my book, looking after my daughter, and then I retrained in rapid transformational therapy. I started my podcast. I've done some talking gigs, and there's lots of different bits and pieces that I've done. What I've got to now is now that I'm in Costa Rica, I'm ready for more. You know, people are like, oh, yeah, you've got to this place now. You're going to just relax and chill. I'm like, no, now I want to build my business with the strategy. I know now what my days are going to look like. I'm going to surf in the afternoon. I'm going to spend time working in the morning when it's cool. And the monkeys wake us up at 5 a.m., between 5 and 6 a.m. anyway. We get woke up when the sun starts to go up. The howler monkeys are out making a lot of noise. And so I'm just going
I
to
love
lean into that. Yeah, I know.
every
It's
time
hilarious.
you talk about it, I'm like, what? That's a
I
very
know.
different world.
So it's like cultivating this nature environment, using it, blending into it, being in the sea, getting woke up by the monkeys, and building my business. Yeah.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, it's so cool you're saying that because most people, I believe, they lead with a strategy. And if you like, I mean, if you want to grind, you can grind. Statistically, at some point, you're going to hit the jackpot, with just strategies. If you and
Hmm.
the marathon and whatever, some people, on the other hand, the spiritual ones, you know, they are into this freedom, flow, and things. But what I see is happening for them, they lack the shape. So like,
Yeah.
business is both when you merge the feminine and the masculine, the flow that you then shape. And that's where you can really, make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So, like if it's just freedom, I don't know, monks, if you don't need the wealth or whatever,
Yeah,
then yeah, of course, you know.
exactly.
But yeah, but I think that conviction and loving what you're doing is a must. And I was on the strategy side for so long, you know, and even though I am in life quite a spiritual person, I saw it was not integrating, but then it clicked, so it changed everything. But in terms of strategy, my belief, and from my observation and from coaching others and studying copywriting and all those kind of things, strategy needs to fit around what you love. Strategy
Mm-hmm.
needs to be sort of like flexible enough, you know,
Yeah.
to, to take
Yeah.
in what you love. So many strategies,
Yeah.
if not most, are very rigid.
Mm-hmm. Like I hear people now in our world, right? There's so many people out there right now who are drawing people in, have £1 million months, like £3 million months, like coaches that are able to create such exponential wealth. And I love hearing these stories because it allows people to see what's actually possible. I can see what's possible even though I've not experienced it, but a lot of people need that evidence. What I think we all fall into the trap of is, oh, it's all about manifestation and it's all about believing that I can do it and doing what I love. That's only part of it, right? You've got to be able to how are you actually getting seen by the people who you're going to work with? How do they actually know that you exist? How did they know what is your message? These are all the
Mm.
things that for 2025, like I think before I've kind of dabbled in them and done a little bit here and a little bit there. But of course, I'm also, for those listening who know human design, I'm a manifesting generator. So my thing is to look at multiple different things at the same time. And yeah, I'm starting to piece together now what really I would love to do and what I do in the
Yeah,
world.
this is the best. And I think even if we are, even if we can grind, I think so many entrepreneurs actually arrive at that point where they realize, you know what, let me just do what I want, what I
Mm-hmm.
love, because otherwise
Mm-hmm.
it's just like there is no life. But anyway,
Yeah.
talk a little bit more about, so you already mentioned you lived here and there and whatever, and um, how do you, and maybe you don't even organize, I don't know, how do you manage to organize your life around this? And I'm saying, like we moved, I was telling you I lived in Ireland for 17 years
Yeah.
and we moved to Lithuania a year and a half ago now.
Mm-hmm.
There was so much inertia,
Mm-hmm.
both in both ways, physically and emotionally as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wanted it, but there was still so much inertia and so much. It seemed there was so much to do and organize
Mm-hmm.
and address, and I don't know. It was
Uh,
pretty mental. So how do you manage to? It sounds
okay.
like it's kind of easy for you.
It's interesting because I think if I look at the practical side of it, I'm quite smart in that I've always had help to do that. So when I was moving, working with the bank, you would have agencies who would sort everything out for you, sort out your apartment, your bills. Like in Istanbul, as an example, I couldn't even call a company to set up my bills because I couldn't speak Turkish and they couldn't speak English. So there was a real kind of deficit there. So there would be agencies that would do everything for you, all your visa stuff, find your homes, find the schools, take you on tours to the school. Everything was done for me essentially. Then, when the moves became out with the bank, so from Hong Kong to Scotland, And then from Scotland to here, my husband is a doer. He is phenomenal. He loves organizing, he loves getting things done. So, all the practical elements, it's him. I can't take any credit for that. He will be all over every single minute detail, has lists, and yeah, it's been full on for him. But at the same time, from an emotional perspective, one of the things that I do is that and I speak to my clients about this as well, is like when I decide to move and when I move everyone away across the world, there is fear there, right? Emotionally, lots of things are going to come up because your mind loves what is familiar. Your mind will hang on to things that make you comfortable, that you do day in, day out, the house that you live in, the grocery store that you go to, where you buy your coffee every day, because your mind feels safe in the familiarity.
Right.
But the minute that you start to make decisions to shift all that up, it creates this like storm in your mind where it's like, oh shit, I need something to hang on to. You're making me feel unsafe. What are you doing? And there's lots of reasons will come up, lots of thoughts, lots of feelings, emotions. It's being able to ride that storm, right? It's been able to go. I use the surfing analogy quite a lot. I love to surf. I'm not good at it, but I love it. And I'm becoming good at it. I need to stop saying I'm not good at it because I'm just telling my mind I'm not good at it. I am good at it. Becoming. Um, when you're surfing, you love doing it. You do it because you love it, because it's scary. You see the wave coming behind you and you think, oh my God, this is going, your whole body is shaking because you're like, look at the force and the size of the wave, and you paddle, 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 paddle. When the wave hits your board, it is boom, it's like a force of nature. You're holding onto the board, you're steadying yourself to pop up. When you pop up, and you've held your nerve, you've held your strength, you pop up, that's the exhilarating part. It is like no feeling I could describe. You're just speeding along on a wave at really high velocity. It is heaven. So I always feel like the big moves that I make in my life are like that. I know I have really strong vision of what it's going to look like. I have a lot of faith of what it's going to look like. When my mind starts kicking up that storm and all the emotions start going, I hold on to what I want the end goal to be, or what I can see the end goal will be at the other side of the fear.
Yeah, that I love that. And so speaking about running your own business and being an entrepreneur, I guess that's essential as well. Can you speak to that as well? Having a
Mm,
maybe visualizing, I don't know how to do it. For me, I find it's very important to feel,
yes.
invoke feelings, not just that physical, I don't know, representation of whatever I want,
Hmm.
right? So how do you
It's
do that?
I think for me with my own business, and one I keep going back to, and I'm in that probably in that storm phase right now because I've got the excitement, the vision, the passion, and it's a point to bring that together with the strategy. But I feel and see really clearly me talking to groups of people, me helping share my wisdom. If I look at my life, I know without any doubt that everything that's happened to me has happened to me for a reason. Everything comes together for me to be able to share my experiences, my wisdom, in order to inspire other people. What I hear from people the most out of my life are two things. One, I love your life. I would love to have your life. Two, I hear from people constantly, every day, you're so brave. You're so strong. You're so courageous. Wow, look what you've done. And I don't think I could have done everything that I've done unless I had faced into what I've faced into. So, my vision for my business is really clear. I'm going to be able to help hundreds and thousands of people to be able to make those dreams come true.
And how do you feel thinking about it? Does that trigger certain emotions? Is there like
Mm.
when you close your eyes or whatever you see there, does it make you feel something?
yes, I feel excited. I feel clear, clean, like my energy feels really clean. I get a tingling in my
Mm.
hands, an excitement in my tummy, and a feeling of warmth. Like when you
Oh,
feel love and expansion and your heart is open. I
oh,
feel that. And I it's so strange, Adita. I go for coffees with people, I go for lunches with I have a call with I spend a lot of time chatting to people. I do. I love people. I'm a people person. And afterwards, I get messages saying, "Oh my God, you really inspired me," or that call that you had with me really helped me, or that session that you did. And I get surprised. I love that when I surprise myself because I don't feel like I've done anything particularly good, but it gives me that warm glow. When someone says that, it gives me a warm glow.
yeah, I can totally actually see that. And I get similar as well. I don't think I said anything,
Hmm.
special. I or did something, but I get those reactions. But I totally see that in you as well, because when you were talking about your vision and how it makes you feel, I can feel it as well.
Hmm.
I just feel it. That energy starts flowing, and that's what it is. Like that's what you get in your business when you do what you love, and when
Yeah.
that energy, it's infectious. It broadcasts really far. It defies all the technology, everything.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's can you hear my cat?
No, I
Oh,
can't.
interesting.
It's
He's
because the
meowing
cat
here.
got
He
a.
he got locked in with me here, and now he wants
Oh,
out. Um,
I can't hear him. God love him. He's obviously heard that you
yeah,
were
the mic
talking
is
about him early.
yeah, the mic is doing a good job, I guess. So yeah, that is amazing. So how do you manage? So you move around a lot. How do you manage to organize your work and what you're doing and your work with your clients and getting clients, because like your time zone changed drastically. So
I
now
know.
suddenly everyone is in a different time. So
Time
you and
zone.
I suddenly, instead of 2 hours apart, I don't know how many hours apart now, 8 hours, I don't know. Right? So how do
Yeah,
you
so
manage?
I'm still about, I can't say I'm managing, honestly speaking, because I'm still 4 weeks in and we've got my daughter into school now. I've started doing my podcast episodes again. I started to do some promotional work around what I'm doing, some LinkedIn posts, some content. But to be honest, we've not settled down into a routine yet. But
Mm.
I look at where we've got to 4 weeks in, and I'm actually astounded that everything's going so smoothly. But I think that's the next step now. So you've got me at the point where I'm super curious about my life. And I was talking to this guy who lives in Costa Rica. And the beauty about Costa Rica is that all the entrepreneurs seem to coexist in this beautiful, great energy. There's people here that you meet or who are billionaires, who are dressing the same as you, who are standing in the queue, waiting for the line at the bakery or whatever. Everyone here that's expats are the same as my husband and I. Everyone's adventurers, everyone's entrepreneurs. Like when you speak to
Wow.
people, you're just like, oh my God, that's what you do? Like how cool. How did you do this? Anyway, I was talking to a guy whose parents were famous activists in the 60s. He is doing a lot on climate change. He's working with Netflix and all these big companies. And he was saying to me, he's been living here for 4 years. He has he works at 5 a.m. until 12. And when he said that, I was like, yes, because my planning in my mind, I've not got any strategy yet, but that's what I want to do. When it's cool in the morning, you work. Everything starts really early here because the sun comes up, and as I said, the monkeys begin. So you don't need an alarm call. But he starts at that, and then he goes surfing for 2 hours, then he collects his kids from school. And I'm like, oh man, thank you for telling
I
me that
need to
this
go
is
to.
possible. You have just explained to my mind that this is in fact actually possible. So now my mind is like, okay, Lazara, this is going to be your way of working. And so 5 a.m. is more aligned to the UK timeline. I was doing a big project actually with the bank at the end of the year. And I thought about bringing, they wanted me to stay until April. It was really good money. It was really high intensity. It was doing what I used to love. So it was for 70,000 leaders all over the world. I had to help build a training solution to help them speak to their employees on pay, the new pay system. Anyway, super intense. And I was working really long days. And I thought the only way I'm going to wake this work is if I wake up early. But it got to the point, Edita, where it felt like too much grind and not enough grace. And it was grinding. And I said, okay, I'm going to get this project to the big milestone where we send out a notification to these thousands of people all over the world. Once I get to that point, I'm then moving on. I can hand it over. So yeah, I let that go. But what I learned is if what I not what I learned, but actually the realization, the powerful, strong realization that I'm taking into 2025, and which is why I'm speaking to you as well, is that if I give even 10% of that passion and energy that I gave to that project, then my business will be super successful in 2025. Even
Wow.
10%.
And it's possible. And like I discovered that myself at some point, you know, there are strategies. There are ways to do it that most people, for whatever reason, in this industry don't know, or they attempt to do something similar, but this there are details around it, and but anyway, because when you just think about it, like you think about, let's say Elon Musk, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is no way he works like 1 million times more than someone else. No
Mm-hmm.
way, it's impossible. Meaning what? He
Yeah.
does things differently,
Yes.
you know?
And
So,
I noticed that about the people here that I meet. Like, everyone has a real entrepreneur spirit. I was talking to another guy the other day who has like multiple businesses. One of them is a pool business. He's his home is in Canada, but he's seen a gap in the market. He doesn't know anything about swimming pools. And he's seen a gap in the market and he said, okay, right. Me and my buddy, let's start it, but you've already got 3 businesses. Yeah, I'm starting another. You know, this real passion.
so how come there are so many entrepreneurs in Costa Rica?
I think the reason why is a few different reasons actually. It is a perfect place to live. It's a blue zone. It's really biodiverse. The air is really fresh. The food is really clean. It's one of these places where people live to 100 plus because it's just like I open my door and nature is alive. It's just a beautiful place. There are energetically, it's also, there's a lot of retreats here. I don't know if you've heard, a lot of spiritual retreats are here, a lot of ayahuasca ceremonies. There's so much. I go down the street and there's healing here, there's spiritual counselors, they're all signs for all sorts of healing modalities. Um, it's here because it's got such a powerful, strong energy in Costa Rica. There's tax free, so not don't quote me on that. It's not tax free. I can basically run my business from here, and regardless of where I deal with in the world, I don't pay any tax if I
Wow.
run my online business from here. By the way,
You go?
I only found that out after arriving. I didn't know that. I didn't
Right.
know that was the case.
Wow.
Someone said to me, and when the person who said to me, I said, I think I need to check that out. I don't think that's accurate, but it is.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So, what do you think about where you are, or I should say, the fact that you are where you want to be, or your environment, how does
Hmm.
it's your ability to work from, to step into flow, work from the sense of freedom.
I think this will answer your question, but you can tell me if it doesn't to get a feel into it. I know this is only the beginning for me. Some people think, oh, Lazara's moved to Costa Rica. She's going to put her feet up. She's got resources. She can just chill. She can. Oh, I know that's what people are thinking. But what they don't know is this is only the first step of something much, much bigger.
Love that.
And I know that. If you ask me to go into my strategy and the steps and how I'm going to do it, I have no bloody clue, by the way. That doesn't matter. I've got the vision, I've got that powerful force within me. I know I am going to create something phenomenal. And like everyone else, I have days where I go, oh, I've not done it yet. I'm 4 weeks in. I haven't started doing things. But actually, I am doing things. It's just bringing it all together. I do have days where I have frustration and sadness, and I still always have that unwavering conviction and knowing that this is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I can definitely see that in you when you talk, and it's such an amazing. It's I think we all need that. That
Hmm.
it's gonna happen. I don't know how, but it's gonna happen. I think that's
Yeah.
what's missing. I think people are focusing on the how too much.
I'm not focusing on it enough, and other people are focusing on
Yes,
that number one, the first. That
I,
the, people start with how. I never
I
start
think
with
it's a
how.
dominating topic in the industry. And if you see these posts, like everybody saying, give value, give value, give value. And one of the biggest ways, as they tell you, to give value, in your marketplace is the how to do this, how to do that, steps 1, 2, 3. Everything is about how. If you're not talking about how to do this and not giving the steps, then you're not giving value. And well, I know for a fact that is not the value you want to deliver to the marketplace as part of your marketing if you want big results. I was in that space of the how, the steps, the process, the this,
Hmm.
that, for a long time. I absolutely love the expertise and the knowledge and all the insights and the fact that I can help and the fact that I can see, troubleshoot people's marketing very fast and,
Hmm.
those kind of things. So that's amazing. However, that's also hard. That's what you are leading with.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Because you're stuck in I see you're stuck in the weeds. You're like stuck in the detail. And even if I look at my career and everything I've achieved, it's only because of that vision. that
Yeah.
that knowing of what I want, and the end vision and the end goal can change. But I loved earlier when you asked about how it makes me feel, because the feeling is what is constant. I
Yeah.
want to feel that freedom. I want to feel that impact. I want to feel like I am. If I look at my life, I've led a very big and full life already, and I'm only halfway through, maybe a little bit more than halfway through now, but I'm ready for much more. That's all going to translate into the next phase for me.
And when you look at, someone, but he looks at what you've done so far, they might think, wow, she's already done so much. Like you're an author. You know, you have a
Mm-hmm.
book, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've done this, you've done that, you've coached leaders and wow, those,
Yeah, there's a lot in there. There is a lot in there, and yeah, I probably don't celebrate that enough. And yeah, I think there's that element of realizing I've done a lot, and I know that it's all for a
yeah. So
future
can
gig.
you pinpoint that moment in your life when you felt I have turned this around?
Actually, it's that's a bloody great question, and it's multiple times. Like
Mhm.
that time that I spoke about when I was taking drugs and I was kicked out of the house and my life was shit. I had been accused of being a heroin addict by some friends who had a bit of an intervention, but I actually wasn't. I hadn't taken any heroin. I was close to it because the people I was hanging out with had tried it, and some people, one or two people, were dabbling in it. And I could have very easily have gone down that route. But when they accused me of that, I didn't argue. I didn't, because I didn't feel like my life was any better than if I had been taking it, you know? And that was a big turnaround moment for me. That bothered me afterwards. I thought, your closest people in the world have just accused you of being a heroin addict and you're not that fussed about it. There's something not quite right with that scenario, that situation. And that's what ate away at me. And that's what made me remember my mum's powerful word the day my sister was killed in the car accident. And then even if I look at, I got married. I've been married before, and my husband, I found out I was in Jersey living. We had the perfect life. I was close to the surf. We had 2 cars. My son was going to this beautiful private school, and I found out he was leaving me for another woman, and it like devastated my whole life. We had to sell our home. Everything was falling apart. But then within weeks, I went to the bank and said, okay, I want a secondment. Where can I go? And had everything all paid for me in my secondment when I went to Istanbul. And I could have went to either Istanbul, Dubai, or Brazil, but I chose Istanbul because it was closer for my son to see his father. And yeah, so I have multiple points where I've gone, this feels really hard, this feels really tough. It feels like there's no way forward. And I dig deep and I feel it and I cry and I cry a lot and then I'm able to move forward. So there's that's why I wrote the book, because there's so many points in my life where I've had to turn it around. At the moment, I feel like it's the entrepreneur business side. This is my turnaround point now. Yeah.
Again, yeah. And when you speak and your stuff shows so much depth that you have, like even things like the power of loss,
Mm,
loss and power both coming
mm-hmm.
together,
100%.
that you come up with ideas like that,
Mm-hmm.
power of loss. And so first of all, I admire that so much. And if you could talk a little bit about, and I'm not necessarily talking about the biggest loss, like death
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, but for somebody who is in a difficult situation,
Mm.
how
I
can
think,
you
yeah,
what
how
about the power of loss or difficult situation or devastation or
the way I see it, feel it, and describe it to the people who I work with who are going through really tough things or can't see a way out. One of the things that death or finding out your husband's leaving you or losing your job or whatever circumstances that you think, the mind is like, oh shit, my life is over, I can't go on. There's a lot of beauty and strength in those moments, because what actually happens is everything fades away. Everything that you were worried about, everything that you were preoccupying your mind about, that you wanted a new house or a car or this dress, or everything falls away. And what you are left with is you. You are stripped bare to just your own essence, your own soul, your own power. And I think that first moment I realized that, although I wouldn't be able to articulate it, was as an 8-year-old at my father's funeral when everything was chaotic. I didn't have my mum there because she was in really bad state. And I guess I got that, I seen that vision, whether it happened or not, but I felt my own essence, my own soul. And so my guidance to people is let the mind do what it needs to do. Your job when you're faced with these moments is to feel into the pain, feel into your heart. Allow it to wash over you. And sometimes if it's grief, I would recommend allow it to wash over you in little bits and starts. Don't let it engulf you because it can be really hard, but just feel into it. Let it ease into it. At the other side of the pain is you, your own strength and power. Everything else becomes meaningless.
Yeah, and where do you look for that power? Let's say, oh, and I know you source that power from that sense of connection.
Mm,
Um, for somebody who can't quite grasp what that
mm.
is, what do you think they could do?
This is really brilliant question. This is a great question, and it's really simple. What I ask people to do is to become still, feel their heart, the middle of their chest, feel their power source there, breathe into that, and just feel what's coming up. Feel your heart, feel your power. Just breathe. And imagine it expanding, imagine it contracting. Most of us, if we're not that connected to our heart, there's a lot of debris there. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of things that we haven't dealt with. So, at first, when you start to do these heart exercises, these heart meditations, it's breathing into your power, there's a lot of energy there. But at first, when you start to do it, you will cry, or you will laugh, or you will, and let it all come up. But the more you do it, like in any situation, if you're in an argument or you're in facing a tough, if something really difficult's happening in your life, just breathe into your heart and just feel the power and imagine it expanding. You can feel yourself, you can feel your essence.
We forget to feel ourselves. Like
Mm.
I remember when I was doing the loving kindness meditation that yogis
Oh,
do.
yes.
Now.
Yes.
I remember I was going through those steps and I started sobbing. And then at the point where
Mm.
I had to direct that to me, to myself,
Mm-hmm.
I was now full on in tears
Of course.
and
There's
like,
I love that. I love that one.
I mean, we forget to have compassion for ourselves as well.
Yes, there's a powerful meditation I do. I do love the loving kindness one. You send it to different people. May you be safe, may you be, yeah, I do that sometimes. I've done it the other day actually for the first time in years. But there's one that's called I Love You, I'm Listening, and you talk to your own heart and you just say, I love you, I am listening. People think that this is all woo woo, soft, soft, but this is some of the hardest things you can do.
Mhm.
And what I always say is my work is not for the faint of heart. It's not for the faint hearted because sometimes you might look into your heart and you might say, I love you, I am listening. And what you find there is something that you don't feel ready to do. It might mean you have to leave your job. It might mean you have to leave your
Mm.
relationship that's not good for you. It might mean you have to drop a friendship with a friend who you've been friends with since childhood because it's not good for you anymore. Your heart will tell you what you have to do.
Yeah, yes. And I think that it requires courage. I think many people intentionally don't want to go there.
Avoid, of course not. But people look at my life, right? To go back to what I was saying, people say, I would love your life. I would love to be doing what you're doing. Everyone sees me surfing on the beach. They see the beautiful sunsets. They see the houses. They see the pools. It takes a lot to hold this life.
Mm.
It takes a lot to, and I see it. I see it with really successful people that I know and work with, and it reminds me of working with really senior people in the bank. Everyone thinks that they want to build a career to be this really senior person. But if you're looking after 45,000 people, ultimately you're responsible for the careers of 45,000 people. It's like that is a lot for people to hold and have to, it's a
Yes,
lot.
yes, yes. People don't realize that if you want big things, if you want big things, you need to actually prep yourself.
And it's doable, but a
Yes.
lot of these practices that I talk about, like leaning into your heart and just get rid of all the debris, shed all that stuff that you don't need anymore, because underneath that debris, this is your power. You're
And
only going to get to the power if you go through that process.
that's it. And this is not prepping yourself through embracing the discipline, the grind, working harder. This is
Mm-mm.
expanding internally,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you're never going to cry again. In fact, quite the opposite. You're probably going to cry more than you've ever cried in your life. Yeah. My
Yeah,
husband was calling me that, you know, that doll tiny tears that you get for little girls that just cries on demand. My husband started to call me tiny tears because he's like, you can cry at the drop of a hat. I'm like, yeah, I cry, I get it out of my system, I move on, and I feel way more powerful.
that's it. The power of tears.
Mhm.
Oh my God, this is so beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Really, really
I've
is.
loved this.
Thank you for your energy, for sharing all this wisdom. So, so tell the listener. So I actually have three blitz questions I ask every guest.
Hmm.
But before we get into that, tell them how you help people and where they can find you, and also
Okay.
about your book.
Yes, so my book is You Can Turn This Around, and based on my life story that I've shared with you, I share just all my different chapters, all the different chapters of my life and how I've turned it around. And that's what my podcast is called. If you think about it, my job is to help people to really expand, to help people to really live the life that they love. Lots of people think that they want it, they think that they can do it, and then they stop at the first hurdle. And so, what I help people to do is to cultivate the faith and to deal with the fear. So, when the fear comes along, they know what's at the other side of that. And so you can find me. I'm actually really easy to find. I have a very unusual name. Lazara is Spanish, but even unusual in Spanish in Spain. I think I was the only person on Facebook with my name up until my aunt and my cousins in Spain joined Facebook. So I have two other people that are called Lazara Canton, but they have other names as well. So you can put my name in. You will find my website, lazaracanton.com. I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook. And even if you're just curious about my life, I am very open. My life is literally an open book. Everything is on there. And you'll also get the link to my podcast as well.
Yeah, I'll put all the links in the show notes for sure,
Thank you.
so everyone can find you easily. And so the questions now. So the first one, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but if you have something to add, please do. So when you hear from grind to grace, what goes through your mind?
I feel this real ease and flow, and then a contraction. And the ease and flow comes with the word grace. One of the things I was reading in the Power versus Force is that grace, even the word, has such a powerful resonance with
Mm,
your body, with your energy system, with the world. It's a very powerful word, and it evokes a feeling of calm, and not even just calm, but like kindness and love. And if we all operate at that frequency, we are all very powerful human beings. When I think of the word grind, I get my body contracts, and I remember all of those times where I've been trying to push myself into doing something that I don't like to do.
love that. Love that. Thank you. The second question is, what change would you like to see in the world?
I would love people to start just embrace their pain a little bit more. Just embrace the hardships, embrace the pain, not to try and numb it, to try and ignore it, which is what I tried to do in my early teens.
Which
You
is,
know, just
I believe, where the liberation actually is when you
mhm.
see it, release it. Yeah.
Because people think they're doing a great job. Everyone's mind thinks they're doing a really good job of keeping them safe by hiding away all the stuff that's too difficult to deal with. Not dealing with it is actually harder.
I think so. It's fake safety, isn't it?
It's still always there, like the monkey on your shoulder. It's why people have lots of diseases and things eat away at our bodies. It's like that. Gabor Mate wrote the book, The Body Keeps the Score, because all the shit that you're not dealing with, your body is keeping it there, stored, festering.
Love it. And so the final question is, what impact would you personally like to make in the world?
I would love more people. I'd love the people that I continue to work with to see how powerful they are, how they can create the life that they want.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for being an awesome, amazing guest. Such a warming feeling I feel coming from you. And for the listener, didn't you just love Lazara? So please, please, please find her online and also share this. Please follow the podcast. We are turning this into a mission, and that's why we need to spread it far and wide. Thanks very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.